On today's session of Chai Tea with Dr. D, I've had a lovely morning, Sunday morning breakfast and tea with my dear friend and esteemed colleague, Dr. Vishpala Parthasarathy. Now, Dr. Vishpala's mother was my teacher, my very, very dear teacher, vice principal of the Homeopathic College. So she comes from a solid lineage of homeopathy. This solid lineage of homeopathy is enjoined with a passion, a dedication, a constant vivacity, and a eternal quest for learning something more. I've learned homeopathy from her, but more than that, I have learned how every moment of life is to be spent by learning something new, whether it's homeopathy or something else. So today on this lovely breakfast and chai, I'm going to ask her to share some of her valuable experiences for us, even senior homeopaths, as well as for the junior homeopaths who are beginning, because nothing quite replaces the actual experience of when we see patients and what you experience from that. So over to you, Dr. Vishpala.
What a lovely morning we've had, Divya, chatting and talking and of everything under the sun. So it's been really nice after a long time, in person to person. So, and I love your little chai pe charcha kind of thing. In the NJH, we have a round table which we call chai pe charcha for 5 people and just kind of talking, not showing any particular slides or anything, but talking about a topic. So today what I want to share with you is that homeopathy is actually such a difficult science. It is not always that you get the remedy right. It is like if you're playing darts, if you get the bullseye and you get that remedy, the results are phenomenal. But even if you're close by somewhere, you will get results. So that is why everybody is successful, which is very good. But I feel that we should have other things we do along with our remedy in practice, so that patient heals from various angles, even if you've not got the bullseye, which is actually very difficult. I always tell people, if you get it once a day or once a week also, and next week you get it twice, then you should feel that you are improving.
But the aim is
always to get that, yes. But even if you get that, the other aids will always help. So I want to talk a little bit about those kind of aids, so which will be helpful to everybody. It's useful to me at today's stage where I'm practicing for more than 40 years. And so a little bit about, say, Bach flower. Now Bach flower has only 38 remedies, so imagine how much easier it is than doing pure homeopathy. But in the flower form, as Edward Bach had really designed it, it's more to do with the mental state. So supposing I'll give you only 2 or 3 examples. I don't want to do so many remedies. So supposing you have a person, you have various patients, okay? One has pain but goes on with life and says, okay, pain is there, like I do. Pain is there, pain is in the leg, what it has got to do with me? But one person, the pain is so much that he cries with pain. So then you give him a remedy called cherry plum. It will help him. It's not a painkiller, but it will help him to recover and get the pain out. And supposing that pain is so much that it interferes with your daily routine, you can't even work properly, then you add to that white chestnut.
So what you're saying is, if a person is crying with the pain and says, I'm crying, you would give him cherry plum,
yes.
Like what, 2-3 times a day?
Yes. You give some pills, you get it in the liquid form, and you make your very tiny pills. And you can, and the best part about Bach flower is that you can mix 3-4 remedies.
So it's more like a palliative,
yes,
kind of.
Yeah, but it is helping your mental state
at that time. So then it would allow the remedy to perhaps
to act better.
Okay.
So then you give white chestnut. And the third remedy I want to talk about, so you can give these 2 together. So for example, a patient was in hospital and he had a surgery and the cut was too painful. And the doctor said it'll take 7-10 days to heal. But what about the pain in the meantime? You can take a painkiller, but I wouldn't advise you to take too much. So he's crying, so you gave him cherry plum, and it's interfering with his life, so you gave him white chestnut. And you will not believe, in 2 days, not only had the pain gone and he slept well, but his cut has healed. So it is quite amazing how your mental state, we say all the time in homeopathy that the mind and the body are not different. And that is true, we can demonstrate that kind of a thing. So just like that, we have 2 or 3 modalities like this. So one is the bark flower, one is on the physical side, we have the biochemics. Okay, so now if you have a patient you're treating for hyperacidity and lot of stomach and IBS and all that. But alongside, if you give natrum phos, which is acidity, 6x. So these don't interfere with your homeopathic medicines. You can give alongside, which is the best part. And you give nat for 6x, again biochemic, for the pain. So, you are helping the patient while your homeopathy is taking hold of that whole patient. So I've told you about 2, 3 of the, I want to tell you a third bark flower, very important. It is walnut. It is a link breaker. So, supposing you have a disease for a long time and you want to break your link with that disease, you can give walnut. Or you are an addict and you are addicted to cigarette for nothing but a habit, say, for example. Then you can't break it, or you're drinking or you're smoking. You can't break it. It's something your fingers have to do all the time. You give walnut, and they say, Bach says that it is changing your negative addiction habit to a positive habit. So then you take up, say for example, piano or violin playing or guitar playing, something again to do with your fingers, but in a positive direction.
So this is very interesting because when we talk about the neurocircuitry of the brain, where we are saying that originally the root of it's the circuit that gets fixed in the brain. So when you're saying break the links, what we are talking, and in behavioral therapy they do this as well. You're breaking the link, that whatever was connected in the link, like in addiction, people say, I can't pass stool, I can't think. They get into that circuit. So somehow walnut the remedy allows you to break that circuit easy and something else can be introduced. So an interesting research here would be to see, because these links are also formed with neurochemicals and neurotransmitters, ligands as they call it, in the psychoneuroendocrine immunology. So if we can find out with research that this walnut must be connecting to some particular neurotransmitter, so this is very interesting to see how that work goes. Even in homeopathy, we have this juglans, regia, etc., which has a very strong effect.
No, even these remedies are there in homeopathy as well.
But the use in this form to change, to enable neuroplasticity to happen in an easier way. Very, very interesting. So maybe a case example that.
So I have So any patient with having addiction and said, I just cannot give up smoking. I've tried, I give it up for 2 days, 3 days, 7 days. So one of the other things people told, somebody had done work and said, you take the smoke in a bottle, put water, potentize it and drink that. Okay, but that doesn't always work. So then I gave the patient walnut and he was very anxious about it. So and he said, I need to smoke and disturb my work. So I gave him white chestnut, and very fearful. When you have known fears, then you give mimulus. Really fearful. Every time I'll be caught, I'll have something happen. And you gave mimulus. And patient and you can take these many often because they are in crude form, So you have no aggravation, and you can give it TDS. You can mix all the 3 and then give it TDS also. For 7 days, 10 days, 1 month, 2 months, you can take it without any problem.
So have you used just walnut in this way in addiction?
Also, I have used, yes.
And how long? And
it took about a month or 2 months, but you could see the impact. This person had alcohol. He was a young person, and lot of alcohol. He had to drink. And then it became 2, and his wife said suddenly one day he didn't drink at all. And sometimes these addicts, they don't want to take medicine because they think nothing is wrong with them.
Yes.
Then the wives give them, the medicine and water
Without their knowledge.
without their knowledge. And even then he gave it up. So it was it's not psychological what we say.
Right.
Like,
Not conscious.
not.
Okay.
And I'm trying it with my dog, and I'll tell you next week, he loves sweets. He cannot resist. It's like an addiction for him. So I'm giving him walnut, and I'm going to see what happens with
So
that.
are you, in these patients, do you replace or tell them to replace with another thing, like how you said, no,
Yeah.
to break the
Yeah.
finger,
So-
suppose you're used to, then piano.
Piano.
So
We
choose
replace
some-
it with him with a ball, to play with a ball all the time.
That's for your
the dog.
And for the patient with alcohol
You
addiction?
will say that you can have just chew some non-invasive anything.
So you
yeah.
would suggest a
Right.
particular thing.
Because he is used to having something,
Something.
a tobacco chewing. So instead of which you give him something innocuous like mukwas, jeera goli or any other thing.
Would they then develop that addiction to the mukwas or jeera
It
goli?
does, but
That
it's
does not.
harmless.
Yeah.
But it's harmless, so there is no problem at all.
Very interesting.
So, and the third modality which I use, I have many modalities. So, third one is of course mother tincture. We say local, not, but when you're treating a person with acne, for example, you give Berberis aquafolia locally. It really, really helps to heal very fast. Or you give Zizigam, you're treating a patient for diabetes, but you give Zizigam mother tincture. Again, you have to give it in drop form 3 times a day or 2 times a day, and you will see the results. So these are what we call auxiliary to your basic homeopathic medicine, which I believe helps much more and faster to the patient. So I'm a person who likes to do many things to keep good health. Patients are not going to come to us forever. So we have to give them something to do, on a daily basis, which is keep them healthy once you've made them kind of healthy. I could go on about many other things, but I think this is enough for today. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you, Divya, for having me.
Thank you very, very much. So, thank you very much, Dr. Vishpala, for sharing these 3 modalities, the bark flower, in which you specifically talked about chestnut, you talked about cherry plum, and you talked about walnut to break the link. And in tinctures, you talked about aquafolia berberis, caesium, and you talked about biochemical like magphos, and which is the other one you mentioned? Natrum phos. But I also want to add that our foundation, as built by Hahnemann, was on research, where he used to prove the remedies to see the effect. So as we go forward, and we are so many homeopaths, and we want to be sure and clear of what we are doing. Clinically, not only Dr. Vishpala, but others have also found this combination is working, especially for very deep illnesses. So a good idea would be to do a proving. If we take a remedy and just give only the remedy, and you take a remedy and you give it with a tincture, see the effects. Also to do like a meta-analysis. Say we take a group of diabetics, we take their individual cases, give them their constitutional remedy. To one group, we would give them only their constitutional remedy. To the other group, we would give them the constitutional remedy and maybe Caesium jumbolinum mother tincture, and see what the difference in this two is. So I think proving is little more difficult, but because we are not using it in a particular organ specific disease, but to do a clinical trial like this would be
Definitely.
extremely
Much more with force. You can say you can use
We
this
can
very
use,
well.
right.
In fact, yesterday we had a webinar of Engage on just mother tinctures, and it was Dr. Praveen Kumar had spoken, and 35 very explained
strongly ones.
on mother tinctures.
So let's all get together
Yes.
and do this so that homeopathy is not called non-scientific.
It is the most scientific
It is more
system
scientific
in the
but
world.
we should probably get together and put this into action.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Vishpala.
Thank you.